Well, good afternoon, everybody. When I say I'm happy to be here, I don't emotionally mean happy. I mean, it's actually very sad to be here where we have many experts needing to talk. For whatever reason, we all do it. We're not sure how to react. So many times we just walk by. And some of us do more than that within our jobs and within our professions. But many times there's whether it's labeling or stigma or from that family down the street. And the truth is that they're all of us, and they're all of our stories, and they're people. And so as we've heard a lot of facts and figures, I do want to tell a few stories to kind of bring a face to this. I have been a classroom teacher in elementary for 30 years and really in and out or staying at our house or just many people. But I have one distinct memory of being maybe in junior high and at a local park, an older man who was homeless. And this is well over 40 years ago. So think about that in Orange County. We're not talking. And I remember having this urge to want to help him. And so my mom, at this time, 40 years ago, said, well, you can, go down to the park and take him something to eat. As, like I said, we had a huge amount of people in our house all the time. But speeding up to my teaching day, when I first started feeling, whether it be single moms, whether it be not being able to pay their rent, and that was kind of my first, if you want to say, focus on getting involved. And so as a teacher, instead of going off about how their grades are and how do they behave in the classroom, was really to focus on how do we keep them in an apartment? Who can I reach out to? Is there a group? And at that point, there were some churches that were coming together that could help with rental assistance and vouchers. But spending those years with the economic downturn, really shifting as a teacher to, we need to understand if the mom's not working, the whole family is in despair. If the brother or sister can't go to college because of immigration status, the whole family. If they're losing their car because they got a ticket and now it's impounded, they're not going to work. So really getting that the academic part was secondary to the well-being of the family. And then I'm just telling you some of the big key moments that really I've interfaced with this. Then I was on Fullerton City Council in 2011. Some of you may or may not remember, but we had a huge case in Fullerton where a homeless schizophrenic man was, in fact, beaten to death by our police department. It was the Kelly Thomas case. And I was on council at this time, and Fullerton's a kind of urban, suburban city in Orange County, really never made big headline news. We have Cal State Fullerton, the Titans, but overnight we became an international story because of the way that this young gentleman had been beaten to death by our police department. And it brought out hundreds of people to our council, and I was on council at that time, but then named mayor. And to see the anger and the anguish, and to see the photos, and then later on to see the video released, was horrifying. We kept being told, oh, it's not as bad as you're going to think it is. It really, and when you see the video, if you haven't, you hear a schizophrenic man yelling for his father, and then, in fact, died. So those were some of the key moments, and immediately after that, one of the things I wanted to find out was what were other cities doing related to homelessness and mental health, and what seemed to be issues that we might have been able to control at that time as far as homelessness and training for police officers and enforcement has now moved up to over 500 people dying on the streets of Orange County in the last year and a half. to thousands of people living on a riverbed in Orange County, and to finally a judge, a federal judge, Judge David Carter, who said, this is not acceptable. And went out to that riverbed and said, we're not doing this, and demanded that the cities in Orange County come to his court and in essence look to him to say, why aren't you doing anything about this? So as we are the stats, as we are the numbers, who is responsible? And the truth is we are responsible, because we have had council after council say no to housing. We've had NIMBY after NIMBY say no to, we don't want that in our neighborhood. We've had supervisors who have held MHS funds. You have a voice in this by who you elect, because when they are refusing to do a basic need, a moral obligation, then we find ourselves in this situation. So I will just end with some, if I want to say, bright spots in Orange County because of this federal judge. I believe he's the only one, at least in the spirit I know, to have said, you are going to step up. We see that county or cities are now joining together to build some shelters using their SB2 funds. And Fullerton, the city I live in, now has an overnight parking because the faith-based community came together, packed the council, and said, we want to do this, and our council voted for it. We now have 150 beds coming in with a recuperative center in Fullerton because the faith-based community again came. So there came that he would hold cities responsible, and that this was going to be a #1 initiative. And I do see that effort, but we have to look at our surplus land. That is state land. It is not city land. We have to look at our closed down hospitals, our disabled hospitals. We have one in Orange County with 118 hospital. So this is not about can we, it's about the will. And I will just end with, I get so passionate about this. As some of you might know, I lost a brother just over a year ago. And he did have, as you called, the trimorbid, and that's a new term that I just learned today, but he did suffer from alcoholism and mental health and had health issues. And he was making progress, and he was hit by a car. But it's not just my brother, like I said, it's our neighbors, our families, and we can get there.